Very cool.
Hoş geldiniz hocam. We know that you are one of the very few researchers on data journalism in Turkey. So we are very happy to host you today. I'm not going to make it any longer. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, Onurcan. And I think it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you. And just a few explanation about who I am. Maybe I'm working at Karas University, Department of Communication. I teach data journalism. I started with data journalism and it's continued with the big data and data visualization because it's kind of connected each other. So I teach data journalism, and plus I have I'm kind of co-founder of the Data Literacy Association based in Istanbul, but we do some global work about data-driven world, etc. But basically, I teach data journalism, like how journalists or journalism students can use the data or any sort of data for journalistic purpose. So my presentation is going to be maybe quite different than the previous presentations, because it's all about a little bit what is data journalism and how we are using data journalism. And I aim my presentation going to be a little bit interactive than just a slide, you know, not only presentation, but also I would like to show you a few links during my presentation. So please just interrupt my presentation and ask the questions. It will be more better when we do interactive conversation together. I was thinking about where I can start to share data journalism with you if you are not familiar about the topics. But I think it would be nice to firstly explain what is data journalism, because it will be nice to explain that. So data journalism, actually, it's not new, but it's the new things is about the lots of data we have today, and lots of technology softwares we are having while we are analyzing or filtering our data, and plus, of course, lots of newsrooms looking for different stories. So there are many parameters that we are trying to use the data journalism for the journalistic purpose. And this title is actually came specifically after the leaks, like Pandora Papers, Panama Papers, Afghan logs, etc. But we are actually, when we are talking about the data journalism, we are talking about the story, not the numbers, not the statistics, not the analysis, etc. I know the sound is a little bit interesting, but actually we are talking about the only story, because all the data journalism disciplines try to show journalists, or they try to teach how you can get more intense and high value public interest stories. So numbers is important, of course, lots of data is important, open data is important, structured data is important, but more importantly for us, for researchers, different, but it's for the journalist itself, data journalism itself is actually for the story. But what we do when we do data journalism, actually, when I teach, well, it will be my side as a lecturer, but it's for the data journalists, things quite different. But for data journalism, actually, we try to answer few questions while we are teaching, like how a data story flow chart could be, and where the journalists or where data journalists could start tools while they are cleaning their data, or where they can scrape the data, etc. So this is a very typical chart that I always share with students while they do their solo project. You see here, like, if you don't have a data, where you can start. If you have a data, where it is. If your data is available somewhere, is it structured enough? If it's not structured enough, what tools you can use for scrape these tools? Or if your data is not clean enough, like Akın Hoca is already mentioned, like scraping is a really huge problem for one of the data journalism network. You're spending lots of time to structuring your data. But the nice things actually nowadays is lots of governments, platforms, they start to share lots of structured data for journalists. It's really very quite good. So that's why it's important for us to understand why is messy data is really a huge problem for us before we go analyze our data. So we are teaching the journalists during our courses, data journalism as well, and also data visualization, of course, how you can clean up your data, and before cleaning your data, how you can define and understand your data is messy. So this is like two terms. Your data is messy and you need to tidy this data up. And if you are tidying this data up, what does it mean exactly? So it's lots of things you need to teach students, especially for the data journalism students. Lots of things you need to teach them before you just explain why is it important data journalism. So this data story flowchart, actually the main titles or items that about the data journalism. You show scraping tools, teach them scraping tools, and ethics side as well. And you need to teach like how you can clean your data, or you need to define how you can visualize your data, because we do any sort of data visualization, but the clean data visualization is actually main topics that we are teaching to students during the data journalism course. And of course, sometimes in Turkey they're confusing with the infographics, etc. But this infographic is kind of information design as well, but for the data visualization, you need to teach design, statistics, basic stuff as well. So this is all about data journalism, but specifically, actually, you teach gathering, cleaning, organizing, analyzing, visualizing, and publishing the data for journalistic purpose. This is how we define the data journalism as well. So what terminologically maybe it would be nice to define is actually it starts with the 1950s, is about computer assisted reporting. Well, it's a very American based, but it starts there because it's not new. They are competing stuff. That's why maybe you invited me, because it's competing things. So it's a computer assisting reporting. It starts with the computer assisting reporting, and then finally, like it's a new words we call data journalism, but it's data-driven journalism, structured journalism. Those are all terms we are using while we are explaining data journalism. But computer assisted reporting actually is a key aspect I can share because we see the American journals, they start to use that, and they start to use a lot of data, from the 1950s and late 60s and 70s. So it's not new, actually. They're really using data a lot, but it's after digitalizing lots of data like open data or structure or leaks as well. So the terms is turned to data journalism, because lots of journalists they figure out that lots of data could be journalistic purpose, while they receive some leaks about burning issues, etc. For instance, like WikiLeaks and Pandora Papers, etc. And this is well, I have shared this one, but I think this one is also one of the a chart that we can explain about how we do data journalism, or how we can teach. For instance, when we teach data journalism in numeric department or any other departments, actually, because not only under the communication department, sometimes they teach under the statistics as well. I saw that. But this is a process that we teach where to data, how to get, how to obtain, how you can scrape, how you can filter, analyze, and how you can visualize and make a story. So you see that the bubble is the really high, bigger one, because we do that. We do all these things because we want to understand how story is important for the public interest. So it's all about the journalism, but journalism students not that much lucky, because they learn lots of things. For instance, for under the data bubble, they learn more than 6-7 sub courses. For instance, scraping data, uploading or changing the data types, etc. For instance, Akın Hoca has shared this CSV file. So we teach like how they can change these formats as well, because it's lots of problem in front of us working with the structured data or unstructured data. Maybe it would be nice to just show like that. So if your data is not structured enough, like structured and unstructured, it's all about using your data more practical way and design or analyze, etc. So it's helping you to save some time. If you're working in a big data technology, it's different. But if you're working in data journalism, if you run the project, it's a really huge time-consuming topic in front of you if your data is not structured and good enough. So here is a very basic explanation about why structured data is important, and you compare with the unstructured data, time-consuming, and you can search more simply, and you can design, etc. So it's a structure, and structure is huge topic in front of us. Again, for the data journalism. And I don't know how many of you is involved with the journalism, but when you write typical journalism piece in an article, you need to explain clearly what happened, when happened, why is it happened, who is the person in front of this story, which and how. So you need to answer 5 W's and 1 H. So for data journalism, we are answering those questions with visualization or some analysis. So you, instead of you are writing down something, you are just showing with the portrait or chart or map or timeline or flow chart or some scattered, etc. But we use lots of tools actually from the statistics world and data science world, etc. So it's a kind of similar, but it's the content, you know, it's about the journalism. Maybe we could talk about like how we can do that now, how data journalism newsrooms or data journalists or communication departments start to teach, or they saw some potential from data journalism, or the terms like that is turned to data journalism or structured journalism. Actually, I could add here maybe 10 or 15 items, but what I saw, and I saw also one of the first data journalists from The Guardian, and also Eva, she's also really one of the good and strong trainer globally. And I also mentioned a few times when I did some speak, actually tools receiving or accessing the data and trust issues, and also different professional groups are more involved in the data process nowadays. So that's why it's a more important, more easy for us to teach data journalism, and also more easy for data journalism newsrooms to do data journalism actually. So tools, what I mean with tools, the mentioned previous sessions, tools like R, Python, or Excel spreadsheets, but is tools nowadays is one of the key items, key topics for the data journalism, because you don't need to know all the programming languages, doing really very interactive tools, interactive graphs, or for the correlation, or to get some different facts. Well, one tool or two tools already could help you. Another important thing actually in time, because it started with the 2016 with the leaks. But for instance, I have few tool here like OpenRefine. This one is actually created by data journalists, and it's already 15 languages, and it's all working about the massive data. Okay, you can do with the R, but the interesting things about this tool is just for the data journalists, and you can explore your data, you can clean and transform your data, you can match your data without doing any programming stuff. All you need to do, upload your data and try to ask the tool to help you figure out what is wrong about this data, etc. And another example, actually, I can share, for instance, oh, not that one, this one. Okay, we can convert our PDF files. It's also unstructured data. You see, it's a New York Times, ProPublica, and some really very important newsrooms. They start to create their own tools for journalism, for data journalism world. This is kind of like they figure out what is the problem in front of the data journalism, and they start to do some, I don't know, like NGO-based tools and help the rest of the world. So it's really tools today help the journalism make more accessible for everywhere. Another one is an open data. I think open data is another big topic for one of us. And I mean, if we are talking about data journalism, we need to talk about open data differently in different sessions, because open data is huge and big topics as well. But it's for today, for data journalism, governments, also in Turkey, we see like 4 municipalities start to share their open data under the open license. So having more open data, it helps the journalists to get more data. It's not only limited data like you scrape data sets as well, but it's receiving open data, structured data is really now is one of the key aspects from the data journalists. I can give an example again very quickly from the Turkey and in Istanbul, and you can get from Balıkesir, Izmir, and nowadays in Konya. And what else? Yeah, 4. We already have a 4, but it's you can go data US, data, open data Italy, open data Kenya, etc. But here, how this kind of open data could help someone, because you get firstly essential data from government body or somewhere is official data. It doesn't mean that this data we can trust 100%. Of course, we need to go and understand the metadata, how they collected, what is the samples, etc. But it's nice to get some primary and secondary data from some sources about governments, because journalism is about the public interest. So this one is really fantastic examples. You can receive, for instance, kind of 2 stars like open data format data. Actually, if you are going to run story about the public transportation and you want to understand expenses, etc., you see it's an already XLS file. That means you can simply go and start to analyze before you do some structural issues like you're scraping or untidying your data, etc. And here you have an API as well, API, but PDF is one of the really problematic file type for us when you do data journalism as well. So again, I go back, why is we can do more data journalism nowadays? Because of the tools, we can reach lots of tools. And secondly is open data. The other one is actually trust, because nowadays we are more looking for very verified, very scientific based stories. So data journalism, for example, during the COVID-19 and still, and lots of people is trusting data journalism more, and lots of newsrooms get awards because of their very verified data. News is became very important because they are sharing their methodology, they're sharing their old data for anyone use, and they're also showing us how they collect this data. It's kind of investigation or kind of like research methods they use while they do data journalism. And other things, actually, there are someone from data science, I couldn't listen to him because I had my things done. But I think data science, lots of data science now is already working with the newsrooms. For instance, New York Times, Washington Post, and few people is in Turkey also, like some statisticians, and they're also helping some newsrooms during the elections. But nowadays, not New York Times, but Washington Post, they have a department, and this is 7 months now, and not like only a unit or team. They have a department. It calls data journalism department. So they take very serious, and they do lots of migration stories, they do lots of border cross projects, etc. And what again, like here I have few samples how we can do data journalism in an example. Well, I have lots of examples here. I'm not going to share all of them, but there are 3 types of data journalism we see in recent years. But this one, for instance, you have a data and you have a story idea and you enlarge by data you get from statistic institutes, etc. But the second one is stories that use data to investigate. Well, that one actually what we see more, and stories that explain data. And in the New York Times space samples, you can see like Trump sample or Berliner Morgan Post. They do really interesting stories based on data. They explain sometimes because it's not easy and people not really data literate, and so you need to explain clearly what the story is about. But here again, as I said, I like to show some interactive. I'm sorry. So here you see every year,
I think your mic is blocked because we can't really hear.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, this is better. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Is it okay? I'm sorry for that. So I don't know what happened. Okay, so here you see Sigma project. I mean, if you like to go and check, it's really kind of same stories that Akın Hoca and other people is explained. Those are all story based, but you can see how people collect the data from the databases and show how the judges working their work, and they are covering about femicide in Kyrgyzstan, or they are showing like mapping macaco also about again is very interesting places. So here you can, and this is a 2020 first 2021 winners of the data journalism. It was all about the pandemics, also about the corruption actually during the pandemics, and it's a really tragic stories. But what is essential and what is interesting about the stories, you see all the data they are already collected, they are sharing their methodology, and you can download their data as well, and you can use and reuse and reproduce based on their data they collected for their journal. So their stories. So this is why is data journalism nowadays is more important than ever, because everybody's showing what they do. They're not hiding their stories, and that's it. And it's not new, I said, but what about in Turkey? If we are talking about this, what is it? I mean, something is not new, but what is new? But it's in Turkey when you check some we call Geçmiş Gazete. If you click their page, and you can see a lot of old newspapers, and there you can see lots of people do lots of charts, and they do some statistics. They use some forms while they're explaining numbers. So this is actually something old, and this is actually trying to show us how a one single editor work in the newsrooms and struggling with the numbers, because she's drawing everything, or she's writing down everything and then calculate, and then she's visualize her story. So here is this simple chart from the 1970s, and I'm sure like she spent lots of time to calculate this, or maybe previous year you can, like this one is as well. So they're just lots of samples from really from 100 years and before, and you see they are using numbers very effectively, but it's, of course, it wouldn't be the same like when you are using computers or some programming languages. Again, when we go back the process of the leaks, like how we can jump from here to here, actually data journalism as a term start with leaks, and the size of the leaks actually create a huge problem in world. So this one, well, you maybe already know a few of them, but if you don't know, well, actually, just I'm showing now the first one about the offshore secreted from the 2013. But when we go back like 2006, and we had another different tiny little leaks. But data journalism process, the data journalism as a word, it started with the leaks actually. So journalists came together in London. That time I was also in London. I was studying at London School of Journalism in 27. Yeah, so that time I really had the chance to see how newsrooms came together, and they start to do workshop, 40 hours workshop, and they started to discuss how they can use those leaks for journalistic purpose. There is started data journalism actually. So the size of the new data. And other thing is the importance of the leaks, because they're all about the war crimes and corruptions and, you know, gun traffics, lots of things. But well, how you can deal with the 2.6 terabyte data, so like 11 million or 20 million data. So the size, more size you get, more problems you receive as a newsroom. So this is a really key point about the data. Clearly, this one is from the Panama Papers, and well, I can openly ask everyone if you like to just answer. If you like, it's an optional, and you see like emails, 5 million emails, databases, PDFs. So journalists from the newsrooms, they were faced with dealing with such a unstructured data. So just I'm asking openly how you can clear all this data, how you can make this data more sense for the journalists. So this is how data journalism start the leaks. They start to write a lot of stories, and still it's actually going like 11 million, 13 million data. You see, it's really full of like 12 million leaked documents and 13 million confidential electronic digital data. And here, Pandora Papers is a new one that also linked with Turkey. Actually, previously leaks as well is quite linked with Turkey as well. So 12 million data again. So we can discuss, of course, is it this leaks is really coming naturally, etc. But of course, we can discuss. But it's journalists or newsrooms they do care about how important for journalism, how important for the public interest. So process, as I mentioned already, you collect, you visualize, you clean your filter, and you analyze your data, and then finally you make sense for journalism. And what the data journalists, what kind of things I teach actually. I think it would be nice to show. I thought, but I have already shared here. I think I have already linked. Yeah, this one. This one is more clear because syllabus you can have, but it's for instance, we just teach like evidence-based stories. What is evidence-based? And how newsrooms can do data journalism, how you can find the angle from the data analysis, and you teach them actually modeling your data and analyzing and some understanding some, you know, if you don't know like your standard deviation or median, etc. It's a problem actually for the newsrooms because and otherwise you cannot get what the data is telling to you. So and other things that I teach actually for data journalism students for new department, actually for my department. I teach how they can find the data from sources and how they can verify, and messy data also, and basic statistics and data security, of course, and ethical aspects you need to teach them, because otherwise they would not understand what is really exactly right. For instance, for the data scraping, I have shared few links, but scraping is getting really little bit problem front of the newsrooms and data journalism world as well, because you need to know how you can scrape, and you need to be very open while you're scraping. So user agent would be open while you're doing scraping. And well, I optionally I use the Python, but I also use R while I do scraping, and I teach that as well. So telling stories with visualization and visualization, like 3, maybe 3 or 4 hours, so people learn about, or students learn about key titles about the data journalism. Tools that we are using while we do data journalism is maybe some of you already know that, but actually there are non-code tools that you don't need to code as well. So tools for data journalism, OpenRefine, I have already shared R, and Data Wrapper is really one of the good tools, and Flourish, Tableau Public, and well, you can use any tools if you feel confident, but it's any tools, if it's useful for your research or for your project, it will be fine. But there are really tools called data journalism tools. So that's why we call tools for the data journalists. So they are really creating, especially for the data journalists. And this is, I'm just sharing that here you can see awarded journalists, data journalists. They created stories, and you see their skills, actually what kind of things they are using while they are doing data journalism. So they do lots of geolocated tools, and they use R, they use spreadsheets, they use D3, they use Python and Post GIS as well. Java also one of the important tools for a newsroom. So it's, of course, social science use a lot, but it's really news journalism, data journalism, and this world is also really quite familiar about the tools that you use also for your research. And I think, well, we also call who does data journalism, like we call data journalists, because you need to know a few things, like you need to know where to research your data and how you can analyze your data, how you can combine and visualize and write, actually, because data literate or data literacy means like you know how to write your data. So writing skills, writing data skills is also an essential point in front of you. And I think, yeah, sources is important, but Kaggle, maybe you already know that, but you cannot get all the data from the sources. Sometimes you need to understand how you can read the metadata. Again, for the journalistic purpose, for data journalism purpose, actually we teach our data journalism departments, or whoever teaches data journalism, they need to care about where, how the data is collected, and we need to show what is primary data and the type of the data as well. And also we need to start with how to read the metadata, actually. And if you're not showing how to read the metadata, then you can start to think the quality of your data late. You can be late, actually, understanding that your analysis is not good enough. So it's lots of issues front of the data journalism, not maybe statisticians or statistic departments work simply, and they are already use prepared data for analyze, or they do formulas, etc. But for data journalism, you need to you work hard, and you really work lots of I don't know, untidy data a lot. So because you have a story idea or you have a leaks, and you need to know how to solve the problems first in terms of the quality of the data as well. I would like to give you, it's an old example, but just an example to give you an idea. For instance, you already know maybe about Soma miner accident. Is about, it's happened in Soma, you know, and that time, well, everybody, of course, concerned about the topics, but that time I was really couldn't find really good quality data. Then I started to collect the data from different sources and created one open database about the workers' condition in Turkey. Then these projects, well, okay, some people enjoyed the project, but I think it was really difficult that time to collecting this data manually. So we did lots of alert systems and scrape. We asked some NGOs to get their data. So this one of the really old example, but still is a burning issue for journalists and maybe for everyone actually, but this one is one of the data that we collect for journalism. Well, it was still, you can still get the data about factories, like how workers get killed, but also problems we received during the data, because FOI, like Freedom of Information Act, companies, not companies actually, governments, they didn't share any data properly about workers' condition. So it was really problems in front of us. And the other one, also another example about how migrants, they are traveling and they are, you know, coming or going somewhere else, or their routines, roads to the Europe. So this was about actually mapping how migrants get killed or they die during their journey to the Europe. And it's an interactive project, actually shows us how they get killed. And so doing data journalism, all you need to know, like where to do and where you can start actually get the data and how to clean. We use also SPSS, but R nowadays is very famous. Even we have kind of course like, oh, it's not here anymore, but it's, you see RDDG, it means, well, it's not working anymore, but it's RDDG, it was like R for data journalism. So lots of lectures at university, they start to create a special platform or sites about teaching only R and showing this journalism students how they can get, how they can start to use data while they are using our libraries as well. And again, you need to compare which kind of tools you can use. And visualization also, well, another aspect for data journalism. Here, for instance, when we teach data journalism, and I already mentioned that here is a bubble, like visualization isn't a matter, but it's not easy actually show or teach how to start and which visual methods you need to use for your project. It's a simple way we are doing nowadays while we're teaching data journalism. We show the students, like, go and read what you want to show, like the functions and the lists, like if you're going to do some bar charts or area charts or something. Like, we have really very basic issues while we're teaching data journalism. So that's why you need to show every aspect, every level of learning, teaching journalism or data journalism includes data visualization as well. I know data visualization is really quite different, like different titles, and also you get some lectures from different departments about data visualization. But while we are teaching data journalism, we teach data visualization as well. So data visualization, not only kind of funny interactive stuff, but you need to show how you can make sense from using those kind of tools, and what, for instance, if you have a geolocated data, what kind of maps or methods you need to use. For instance, if the journalism students don't know what to show her data sets, and she can go and simply understand like compressions, relationship, or concepts or location, etc. And then she can get, or someone can get, understand like anatomy of, for instance, if you are going to do Nightingale rose charts, and she just simply goes. And this one is for the data journalists as well. So field journalists came together and help the journalists to understand the methodology. And if you want to do, let's say, Nightingale rose chart, and you know what you are going to show, like what is the function, is compressions, data over the time, proportion, etc. So it's like huge and long journey while you're teaching all these chapters, but it's interesting that you can make really very intense stories while you're doing data journalism. I think I have 5 minutes left because I know I have a 40 minutes only. Well, this is few example, only one example I want to show you. Then if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer. If you want to know like what is really a very strong example that I can share, like what is the best newsroom do data journalism, I could say probably 538, because they are really interesting newsroom. Well, I really teach, I show them all the time while I teach data journalism. 538 well, they run stories about the sports, politics, science, etc. And they also know who is going to be the winner of the states. So they knew that Trump, they knew the Biden. It was not surprised, but it's nice statistically they shared, they showed us who is going to be president. So about 538, see, they are sharing all the data about our estimation, all their statistics models. And other important things, they are already explaining on GitHub, and you can get all the README details and model as well. And you can download as a CSV their data, and they share all the CSV, and you know how update their data as well, and with the explanation as well. And other good things about they really do high standard data journalism. For instance, this is, you probably enjoy that, like how popular is the Joe Biden. They are actually all the time, they keep tracking the data about this people like Biden and Trump. And nice things here, you can see how you can see, like if it's Biden or Trump, they compares with the past presidents, and you can see how Trump is in the trends, and or Obama, etc. And you can change like 325 days, and from the first president of the state until today, and you can have all the data, and it's a really interesting story. And you can see approval rate and this approval rating as well, and you can get, of course, data. And this is really very interesting data journalism platform that you can see all the time. They do really very crazy and nice stories. So I have a really long presentation, but I mean, this is all I can say. And one more, this one is about the Clinton emails. They used R, and they did very interesting networking using R. So you can see who and when and what Clinton discussed or emailed during I think it's election time, etc. It was a really interesting story about her networking, her email and networking. And the nice things about this project, actually, you can get all the libraries, all the methodology, and you can apply for any networking project as well. So this is from me. Thank you for listening me. I think I will stop my share screen. Yes. If you have any questions, I'm here. I know I'm a little bit quick, so because I'm running with 40 minutes. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Hocam, thank you very much. This has been very interesting. Also, you didn't mention the latest publish of yours, the handbook for the NGOs.
Oh, yes.
that would be very nice if you shared it with us, because many of us are probably planning to use some visualizations as well.
Of course. And I'm going to think, because I avoid put my things there, you know, is sometimes it's not so fine, as people not enjoy that seeing like, oh, me. Well, just FYI. Well, let me just share, because my PC changed.
During that time, I can voice the question in the chat. There is a very nice question. Would it be okay?
Yeah, of course. I got it already, the book link, and I'm sharing now. Please, yes.
Okay. The question is, the ability to post conflicts in real time through social media simultaneously increases the chance of exposing individuals or conflict-affected communities to security risks. Social media data may endanger former or clandestine combatants and put their families and communities at risk. What kind of an ethical balance should be established between the abstraction of this data and data journalism?
Okay, well, it's really strong question. Well, I'm going to write down a lot of things about that. Well, what I can say, I actually, there are lots of stories you can see while they're covering. Can I just read the stories again, because the questions again, because it's really huge questions. I think just a few. Okay, it's it's a very specific question, actually. Of course, if you are scraping data somewhere else, and it's always a problem while you are not concerning families. But I think I am just not sure clearly what your angle is, like, because the data journalists, most of the time they use scrape data, or most of the time they're using leaks, etc. but any aspect would help. Of course, we are like data journalists. Really, they mind ethical concerns. Of course, they verify their data. They're not using any data, and they have like data watchdogs, and they spend maybe more than like 2-3 months to verify their data. So this is the way they are working. But I am not really clearly sure that will be the answer of the questions, because it's I need to think about that. I'm sorry, I have no really clear answer for that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to Pınar Hoca? İpek raises her hand.
Firstly, thank you so much for this great talk. It's amazing to see technological tools help data journalism. So my question is, of course, these tools are not 100% perfect. And if you have a power, like a super AI power to solve the problems, which problem you wanna solve, and what what is the biggest challenge you are facing right now, and what is the priority that you expect from super future AI power?
Okay, good. Well, actually, there are many newsrooms right now. They use AI. I'm sorry, I haven't added there, but I can put it my presentation if you like, and you can see they really use. And thanks for the questions. It's really good and strong and big question again. So I think there are lots of problems in front of the data journalism, because not all newsrooms is concerned about the ethical angle, because they sometimes just scrape, and especially for the tiny little newsrooms, they have no time actually cleaning, verifying, you know, they just go and check safely way to use the data. They think is that. But I think one of the important things I could do if I had a strong power about, like you said, I think I will solve about the femicide issues, and I want to make really, I'm honest about that. Like femicide is not only for the Turkey, but it's globally we have a lot of femicide issues, and I think newsrooms need to understand how they can predict violence, and it will be amazing to read, understand, and collect data specifically about the femicide and child abuse as well, animal rights. I really look kind of, and ageism as well sometimes, because it's a rising topics nowadays for front of us. And other one, I think you asked me, I think I have answered your questions, right? So am I miss anything?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think Mary Hoja, yeah, thank you. I will attend your conference tomorrow, Alexis. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Hocam, I think this is all the questions.
All right.
Thank you very much again for attending this event. This has been very, I think, influencing. And we will start again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. So we'll expect you there again.
Yeah, I will come.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the participants who stick with us.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.